young person in this industry who has no filter and no idea.
Inside Disney's Snow White fiasco, threats, beefed up security, and a social media guru to shut her up.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line.
With Snow White, Gal Gadot's silence is officially broken after Rachel Zegler broke down in tears. Become a complete catastrophe, Rachel is in the spotlight, and G is allegedly pointing fingers. What actually happened? Did Rachel damage the film? Or was she merely the convenient victim of a much larger mess? This flop just became personal, so let's dissect the drama, the blame, and the whole mess. The greatest nightmare for Rachel Zegler has finally come true. Fans had long expected that Snow White would fail, but Rachel probably wasn't prepared for Gal Gadot to reportedly cast the blame at her.
He is going woke and going broke once again.
And as if things couldn't get any worse, the producer's own son has joined the outcry, accusing Rachel of being the cause of the catastrophe and slamming her for having a narcissistic personality. Rachel's star was recently placed on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which was a huge moment. But guess who wasn't present? Fans were quick to point out the rumored tension between the Snow White co-stars, and Rachel Zegler's absence raised a lot of eyebrows. Yes, it only served to fuel the fire. Some claim Rachel didn't want to face the gal, while others believe Disney purposefully kept them apart, as they allegedly did during press events. No one is really sure why, but her no-show certainly didn't go unnoticed, and now fans are convinced. There is a genuine beef between them, and Variety revealed a shocking report on Tuesday about alleged behind-the-scenes drama between Rachel and Gal. Insiders claim that Rachel and Gal got along well during filming, with no major drama or bad blood, but as Snow White's release date drew nearer, things started to get strange. It all began after the Oscars on March 2nd, when a fan asked if Rachel and Gal were presenting together. Rachel responded on Instagram by calling Gal a professional pageant. Yes, queen, that's not a great look, and that comment offended a lot of people. Some called it shady, while others saw it as downright disrespectful. Disney intervened and kept Rachel and Gal apart during the press tour, but instead of putting an end to the rumors, it made fans even more certain that something was wrong. Then came the March 15th LA premiere, when Rachel and Gal didn't even sit together. Instead, Rachel sat 2 rows ahead of the gal and her family, and the tension was real. Insiders claim that at that point, Disney had already given up hope that the film could overcome the backlash, and if empty theater seats are any indication, Snow White isn't off to a great start. Social media is flooded with snapshots from ticket applications displaying hundreds and rows of unsold seats, and some fans have even shared pictures of nearby empty theaters during showings. Rachel Zegler's detractors are observing that crowds just aren't showing up. It's a harsh look for a movie that was already receiving a lot of criticism, but some critics are even making jokes about someone starting a G-fund to assist Snow White now recoup its enormous budget. Since many fans were pleased to see a Latina actress portraying the beloved Disney princess, Rachel Zegler initially made headlines when she was cast as Snow White, but not for the best reasons. The drama didn't end there, though, as fans weren't prepared for the altercation between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. The blame game has officially started since the film's box office failure, and Rachel is squarely at the center of it. When someone on Instagram called his father creepy as hell, Jonah Platt, the son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, publicly called Rachel out and said that her political remarks and narcissistic behavior had damaged the film. Jonah didn't hold back and clapped back, claiming that his father had flown across the nation specifically to confront Rachel about her remarks. Jonah claims that despite having a multi-million-dollar contract, she created needless controversy during the film's promotion. When people defended her by arguing that she had the right to free speech, Jonah quickly shut that down, saying that free speech does not mean that you can say anything at work without repercussions, particularly when millions of dollars are at stake.
Start out with the creative bankruptcy of remaking another animated classic instead of making something new. But yes, it's all Rachel Zegler and her behavior. And if it was just one comment, it probably would have been forgotten by now. But it was comment after comment, and it was pissing off everybody, pissing off old Disney fans, pissing off new Disney fans, pissing off Trump supporters, pissing off all of America. And it became such a disaster that they had to shut her up, which was the smartest move they made. But the onus is all on her and Disney's reaction to it. And quite frankly, if she has said nothing, her movie, probably still forgettable, would have done.
Even Disney insiders were astonished by what Gal Gadot did next, but we must travel back in time to see how it came to this point, as Snow White was already having difficulties. After a great victory in August 2024, Rachel Zegler's off-screen drama was just fueling the flames. The trailer had just reached a huge milestone of 120 million views in a single day, but when Rachel tweeted "Free Palestine," the backlash was immediate. Disney executives were concerned, and when Gal Gadot, who is Israeli, was the focus of hate speech online, things grew much more problematic. Variety insiders claim that Disney increased Gal's security in response to her actions because she didn't realize the consequences. Producer Mark Platt even flew to New York to confront Rachel in person after she refused to remove the post accusing her of being too woke and blaming her for threats directed at her. The situation allegedly became so serious that Disney allegedly had to hire private security for Rachel too when Rachel made a move that left everyone in shock.
White, the toe-curlingly terrible live-action remake, has bombed so hard at the box office that even Paul Tassi
provided a Gal Gadot given Gadot's 2 years of experience as an instructor in the Israeli Defense Forces. Disney didn't make the decision to increase her security lightly. She is a mother of 4, and while the threats were genuine, this was only one aspect of a much larger issue. Originally intended to be a contemporary retelling of a classic, Snow White ended up becoming one of the studio's most contentious films, and things only got worse from there. After the US presidential election, Rachel continued to post politically charged opinions, even criticizing Donald Trump and his supporters. As a last resort, Disney brought in a social media specialist to handle Rachel's accounts, but it was too late. This increased Rachel's tension with Disney. Despite having a $270 million budget, Snow White only made $87 million at the box office, which is a devastating loss for Disney and another evidence that their live-action remakes may not be as successful as they once were. Dow spoke to a range of people earlier this month regarding the growing animosity on the internet, stating that it is difficult for people to communicate since there is so much hate and so many bots. Rachel Zegler's post about Free Palestine sparked controversy, but she also raised eyebrows with her interpretation of the original Snow White clips, which resurfaced and showed Rachel calling the story out of date and even accusing the prince of stalking. She said the 1937 classic felt very outdated and pushed for a more contemporary interpretation.
Of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut.
However, for die-hard Disney fans, that wasn't just criticism. It felt like disrespect, and since Snow White was already under fire, these remarks only served to intensify the backlash. Rachel claimed she was attempting to promote a stronger female lead, but on opening day, she posted behind-the-scenes photos, but not a single one with Gal Gadot. Instead, she praised the crew and a few members of the supporting cast, omitting her co-star who played the evil queen. She shared heartfelt messages, called it a life-changing experience, and even asserted that the movie was the world's #1 film, but fans weren't buying it. Not with box office figures collapsing, and not with Gal Gadot still silent. What's even more telling is this. Disney hasn't made any significant statements or offered any public support for Rachel. Instead, they have quietly moved away, leaving her to handle the criticism on her own. Whether you believe Rachel is being unfairly blamed or that she caused this herself, one thing is certain. The fallout from this disaster is just getting started.
Zegler went to go see Snow White. What do you notice about the theater? There's no one. Rachel Zegler is sitting in an empty movie theater watching her movie, giggling hysterically and maniacally. Rachel Zegler watching Snow White in an empty theater.